No, listening to Blasphemous Rumours by Depeche Mode is not a sin. Hard stop. That is my answer to one of the most common questions I got coming out of my Depeche Mode Liturgy series. No, Blasphemous Rumours is not a sin. Listening to it is not a sin. But I've been hesitant to make this video because this song really touches a lot of different conversations within the Christian faith. A couple high level we'll get into. James 4:17 says, "To the one who knows the right thing to do and doesn't do it, it's sin." If the Holy Spirit has convicted you about this song, if this song is bad for you because of your past, your history, your story, your trauma, whatever it is you would say, and it brings you down, don't listen to it. But I don't think it's sin, so therefore I feel like I have the Christian liberty and freedom to listen to it and to keep it in rotation in my love of Depeche Mode. For this video, no, listening to Blasphemous Rumours is not sin. Here's why. I get the chorus is blasphemous. I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors, but I think that God has a sick sense of humor. And when I die, I expect to find him laughing. My wife doesn't like this song because of that chorus. Most people I know who come from a faith background that don't like it, they don't like it for that chorus. And I get it. I get it. Fair comment. But I think there's more to this song. I think there's more to Blasphemous Rumours than the chorus. Now, before we get into that, I do want to kind of level set what the band says about the song. Baby Bob and I need you to know that I know this is what the band thinks. This is my opinions as someone who loves Jesus and loves Depeche Mode, why it's important to me, right? We've joked, Baby Bob and I need you to know. I am not saying this is what Martin Gore thinks about the words of the song that he wrote. To that end, here's what Martin Gore says about Blasphemous Rumours. In an interview, Martin Gore said this: "Blasphemous Rumours was mainly inspired by the early days of the band, or even before the band got started, when Andy and Vince were regular churchgoers. And I just used to go along because they were my friends. I just thought it was quite interesting. I was never a practicing Christian, although they were. And when you're not involved in it, I think you really notice the hypocrisy and just the funny side of things. One thing I often quoted is this thing called the prayer list. Every week they would sit and pray for people who were seriously ill. And you could guarantee that most of them, the majority of the people who they prayed for, would die. But they took that as like being very positive. That was God's will, and they've gone to somewhere better. And it's just, when you're not a part of it, it seems very ridiculous, very funny. I know a lot of people out there are not going to agree with me. I'm one. I don't agree. But here's what Fletch said, kind of in response to that. The song Blasphemous Rumours stems from our experiences then. There was a prayer list of people who were sick in some way, and you prayed for the person on top of the list until they died. When Martin first played me Blasphemous Rumours, I was quite offended. I can see why people would dislike it. It certainly verges on the offensive." In addition to the words and the context, Blasphemous Rumours is also the single that followed Master and Servant. So there's my Master and Servant 12-inch right there. Here's a 1984 German pressing of Blasphemous Rumours. It is one of my all-time favorite songs by Depeche Mode. I love it. But this single, Blasphemous Rumours, came out as a single immediately after Master and Servant. So there was already controversy about the sexuality of Master and Servant, and then they drop Blasphemous Rumours. So they already talked about sex. Now they're going to talk about religion, and it got a lot of heat. And I get it, and I'm not here to talk about the cultural heat. I'm here to talk about the religious question. Is it a sin to listen to Blasphemous Rumours? Now, Martin Gore has set the context, went to church with his friends, right? Vince and Fletch, who are practicing Christians. There's a prayer list. You would pray for the people who are sick. Now, another reason I've hesitated to do this is because part of my understanding of the song is very personal. In some of my previous videos, you've heard me talk about my son, Jude, who died from brain cancer when he was 2 years, 2 months, and a day. The thing is now, Lent isn't, from the recording of this video, Lent is in 2 days. 2026, Wednesday, Ash Wednesday is in 2 days. His birthday was last week. The anniversary of his death is in April. So the Easter season, the Lenten season, I'm not Catholic. There's a lot I appreciate about Catholicism proper. Although I'm not Catholic, I often observe Lent. And I think part of it is my son died right before Lent started. The anniversary of his death is often right after Easter. And that progression of what we remember and honor during the Lenten season plays nicely with my own spiritual boxing match with God about the death of my son. As you know, if you're here, you're care to follow along for Is It a Sin to listen to Blasphemous Rumours. I think I'm probably going to title this video The Blessing of Blasphemy. Little clickbaity, but I think it's valid. So here are the words. And again, I'm not going to play a clip. I don't want any issues with copyright. But here's the song. And if you're a fan, you're probably aware. Girl of 16, whole life ahead of her. Slashed her wrists, bored with life. Didn't succeed. Thank the Lord for small mercies. Now, I'm going to pause myself for a minute. For a decade or more, I thought the words were, didn't succeed. Thank the Lord. Forceful, merciful. I heard for small as forceful, mercies as merciful. That's a whole nother conversation we could probably have. But for the longest time, I thought it was forceful, merciful. No, she didn't succeed. Thank the Lord for small mercies. Fighting back the tears, mother reads the note again, right? Suicide note. 16 candles burned in her mind. Right? She's 16 years old. She takes the blame. It's always the same. She goes down on her knees and prays. So the narrative, there's a 16-year-old girl. She leaves a suicide note. She tries to commit suicide. She doesn't succeed. Her mother finds a note. And I get it. My son was 2. He had brain cancer. My immediate thought was, oh my gosh, is this because of my past? Is this because of the things that I did when I was younger before I got married? Is this because of the substances that I took and the drinks that I drank and the things that I did? Did I give him the cancer? Ridiculous. 1, I'll never know. 2, it's not about me. But here in the story, girl of 16 tries to commit suicide. She doesn't succeed. And there's this comment, thank the Lord for small mercies. And then you get the chorus, I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors, but I think that God's got a sick sense of humor, and when I die, I expect to find him laughing. And then you kind of get the dramatic irony, and this is where that sick sense of humor comes in, from Martin's view, which I want to talk about his view, my view as a dad who lost a child, a 2-year-old with brain cancer, but also the view of the mother. Like, if this is a girl of 18, 2 years goes by, 16, she tries to commit suicide. She doesn't. She's 18 years old. Fell in love with everything, and she found new life in Jesus Christ. Was hit by a car, ended up on a life support machine. So she tries to commit suicide. She fails. 2 years later, she becomes a Christian. She finds a new life in Jesus Christ. She's hit by a car, and she's on life support. Family's praying, mother's praying. That was me. I was in the hospital. My son was on life support. He survived surgery to remove the brain cancer. He survived surgery, but he was on life support. And everything turned for him. And in the song, the narrative of the song, Blasphemous Rumours, summer's day as she passed away. Birds were singing in the summer sky. Then came the rain, and once again, a tear fell from her mother's eye. In the narrative, in the story of this song, 16-year-old girl tries to commit suicide, does not succeed. 2 years later, becomes a Christian, gives her life to Christ. After doing so, and this is the sick sense of humor from Martin's view, she gets hit by a car. She's on life support. Family's praying. Going back to his comment, the people at the top of the prayer list you're praying for, and then the next time you go, they're gone because they died. Summer's day, as she passed away, birds were singing in the summer sky. Then came the rain, and once again a tear fell from my mother's eye. And I get it. I get it. I have my own frustration with that idea of hope. I've shared it either here on TikTok. It's when my son came out of surgery again, they showed us that he survived. That night, all the machines went crazy. Something had happened, and the pressure in his head and his brain was increasing. And so, this was a lifetime ago. Got out the computer, hooked up to telephone, dial-up internet, sent the prayer request, like Martin Gore's kind of making fun of. Everyone's praying. And the prayer was that the pressure would go down. And in our case, it started to. So I told my doctors, his doctors, I told the nurses, they encouraged me to get some sleep because I hadn't been sleeping well in the hospital during this whole ordeal. It was almost a week. And I made a deal with them. I'll go to sleep, but if that pressure goes up again, because the concern was the pressure would cause all the blood to leave his head and he would be brain dead. If that pressure comes back, wake me up, because that would mean the swelling was coming back or whatever was causing it. So I go to sleep. I wake up on my own. So what am I thinking? Praying the pressure goes down. Told the doctors I'll go to bed. You wake me if the pressure goes back up. I wake up on my own. I'm assuming the pressure is down. To find out, it never really was. There was a clog in one of the tubes. Once they cleared that clog in a tube, everything went back to normal. So I wake up to find out that my son truly is on a life support machine. Just like in the song Blasphemous Rumours, this young 18-year-old girl dies, my son also died. So my son's name could have been one of those names on Martin Gore's list that he saw, the prayer list. Everyone pray for Jude Smith. You come back the next week, and his name's gone because he's died. And this song, that's the context for, I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors, but I think that God has a sick sense of humor. That's his perspective. I don't know the mother's perspective here, but if you go back up to the first verses, fighting back to tear, mother reads the notes again, 16 candles burn in her mind. She takes the blame, is always the same. She goes down on her knees and prays. She's praying for her daughter. So when you get to the third verse, girl of 18, fell in love with everything. She found new life in Jesus Christ. Martin, by his own admission as an outsider, he says he never truly believed. I'm not making that judgment call. That's what he said in the quote we looked at. But in the context of this story, you have a Christian mother praying for her daughter who finds new life in Jesus Christ. I get the dramatic irony of then being hit by a car, ending up on life support, and dying. And this is where I want to be super delicate. I understand from Martin Gore's worldview, he doesn't believe in an afterlife, right? So here are two quotes from World in My Eyes. And that's all there is. Nothing more than you can feel now. That's all there is. And then the next time goes through to that's all there is. Nothing more than you can touch now. That's all there is. This is a very materialistic, humanistic worldview that what you can see now is all there is. From a man who would write, there's nothing more than you can feel. That's all there is. Or there's nothing more than you can touch now. That's all there is. This idea of a sick sense of humor makes sense. The difference is her mother in this and me, my worldview, there is something else. So the blessing found in Blasphemous Rumours is a 180 and the complete opposite of the sick sense of humor that Martin Gore references. What Martin Gore calls a sick sense of humor, surviving, becoming a Christian, then dying, is the blessing. I think I'm right. I'm not saying if I'm right in the context of doubting. But I'm going to say if I'm right in the context of conversation. I don't know who's watching this. If I'm right. If the mother in this song is right. If the whole of Christian history is right and there is an afterlife. And the idea of salvation that we preach, we right? As evangelicals evangelize, because we see an afterlife where there is eternal punishment and there is eternal reward and there is heaven and there is hell, regardless of what you think that hell is. The blessing is the blasphemy of the song. The blessing is, in this Christian worldview, that daughter, although she died physically, lives spiritually. And I mentioned this time of year, right? We're going to get to Easter and we're going to say things in our house like, because Jesus lives. Jude lives also. Because Jesus lives. This girl of 18 who fell in love with everything lives also. I get Martin Gore's blasphemy, but having an opportunity to remember that hope and that grace and that blessing, singing this song, and I don't belt out the chorus, but it's more of a meditative song for me. It's not part of my liturgy. It's not something that I sing as prayers of confession and prayers of consecration and salvation, but it is a song that is heavy in my rotation as a meditation, as a be still and know that I am God type song, to just remember that in the chaos of everything that's going on in our world right now, with all the pain and the suffering and the death and the just absurdity of evil in our world today, but in a world where evil seems to be winning, where evil seems to be running rampant, this song reminds me that there is grace, that there is a blessing that comes with the faithfulness and the perseverance and all the things that I talked about in my Depeche Mode Liturgy series. So I was asked, is it a sin to listen to Blasphemous Rumours by Depeche Mode? No. Because it gives you the opportunity to kind of level set your worldview and remember that even though there is a lot of bad and negative evil in the world, there is hope when we find new life in Jesus Christ. God bless. Godspeed. I love you guys.